Hey everyone, Sean here.
Hi everyone, it's Tim.
We're back. Another drop of Dharma. It's awesome to see you again or be seen if that's what's happening.
That's it. Many drops forming a small puddle of Dharma, a lake of Dharma.
To quote The Power of One, a waterfall starts with a single drop, and looks what becomes of that.
Ah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Thanks.
Speaking of deep quotes, we looked at the summary of our past session and we got a pretty cool document. What do you think of the notes, Sean?
Tim, it was humbling because it's true. AI is here. AI is here. The notes summarize what we were trying to say better than we were saying it. You can either go against that, but that's not what we teach. That's not what we learn. We're meant to go, not go with, but not go against. So we're going to harness this new AI force and we're going to use it to move forward. So we're going to use that as our strength. We're going to use its brilliant summaries as the class topics. It's great.
I think so. It's very Tai Chi. We're borrowing power, we're not against. But the AI can't generate this stuff. If you ask AI about Dharma, you'll get some of the largest words in the English language. Great if you play Scrabble. I don't. Do you play much Scrabble, Sean?
I mean, I was into it as a kid a little bit because I thought I was pretty good at spelling, and then there's levels to that.
There's levels, but we take away all the words like contemplation and some other ones I can't even
Exacerbation.
pronounce. Yeah, it's a bit too much. So how should we do this? I can put some of these up on the screen. We can run through the list. What would you like to do?
Yeah, let's put the first one up on the screen and we'll unpack that because that's a powerful statement. So the first one Tim's gone and highlighted there is Dharma teaches eternal wisdom and is a practical guide for life. That is such a simple statement to say, but to actually deeply understand it from your heart is another awareness. And I love the analogy, like, when you get told the stove's hot, don't touch it, and you don't touch it. So you have no idea how hot or what hot feels like. But then if you were a kid and you went and put your hands on the oven and you felt how hot that is,
Mm.
the sensory feeling is reality. That's the experience of that idea. And the same way, this idea, Dharma teaches eternal wisdom and is a practical guide for life, that can create a feeling if you connect more of your awareness to it. And that's what we're going to try and help people do is connect to it because it's easy to say, hard to connect to these ideas sometimes, eh, Tim?
It is, and it's a tricky word because the word contains a lot. I mean, I think in one definition, Dharma is a word that covers all. If you needed a word to cover everything, that's the word. So, but when we talk about Dharma, we often talk about individual Dharmas. So Tai Chi is one kind of Dharma. Different philosophies are another kind of Dharma. Sharing and healing. So it's a tricky one. So it's good. I think it's good for us to share that. And any one of them can help you to awaken further. You don't have to collect them all like Pokemon, but it's great if you have a chance to.
100%. Yeah. Well, the word Dharma always used to confuse me, but it's actually not that confusing once you get all the explanations. You need all of them. You do need all of these ones. To understand one concept, you need to see it from as many angles as possible. So you have to collect all the angles to the idea, but you don't have to collect all the ideas.
That's a good way of saying it. So you don't need all of the
All the Dharma,
sorry.
but you
You
need
don't need,
all the angles to each Dharma.
yes. Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it.
That's true, yeah. So the word Dharma actually refers to the system of life or anything that explains the system of life. That's why it covers everything, because everything that appears within the system of life is part of cause and effect, or karma, or dharma is the all-encompassing term for everything that appears. But causation is where we can see the cause and effect, like eat bad food, get sore stomach, or get sick. But karma is when you can't see what created that causation chain. So I don't know why I was born as Sean or Australia or to this family or whatever. That's all called karma. That's past life cause and effect. But dharma is all of it together. Dharma covers all.
Yeah, and that's cool because it's I mean, I think that the modern word for it is like, oh, it's meta. You know what I mean? It's like a word that kind of folds in on itself. But that one's a bit annoying. I mean, Dharma, what you're saying is Dharma teaches eternal wisdom because it's the process the process of learning it itself, that experience will teach you the wisdom. Or if you understand Dharma as well, you were saying it becomes teaching Dharma, because once you learn it, you want to share it.
Sharing Dharma, yeah, and that's what we created this podcast, because we really appreciate how that practical wisdom or Dharma can make your life better. It seems like so awesome, and it's so nice to share it. So why can't we share it? So we're sharing Dharma because we learned and connected to Dharma and learned to become some of that Dharma, and now sharing it is our way of appreciating it and becoming it even more, I guess.
Ah, that's cool. I suppose a simple one for someone that's watching might be, a statue can be Dharma, helps teach you, about posture, about kindness. You see the expression on that being. Mantra, another kind of Dharma, help you to awaken. I mean, even if we don't understand the Sanskrit, of which I don't for most of them, that feeling itself kind of puts you into a special zone to kind of help you, connect to something different. So there's a couple of examples.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important. The idea of it being a Dharma is it's it's explaining the system of life, or it's a technique to match the system of life. And the whole purpose of matching or understanding the system of life is because by being in harmony with something, you're less likely to receive suffering. So the whole point of Dharma is to kind of observe or develop wisdom. And that statue teaching you through experience, just seeing a statue with perfect posture, with a joyful expression, it kind of gives you a wisdom to practice, or a wisdom to remind you to practice,
Mm,
the
something
wisdom
to
that
copy.
creates that ability, something to copy. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, all of that. So, yeah, Dharma is anything that helps you develop your awaken to be more aware of the system of life. So, a book, a statue, another person, a mantra, a song. Yeah, they're all teachers in their own way. So, and on the other side, it's actually really disrespectful to disrespect something that teaches you wisdom. It's like that's not a good energy to be putting out there.
Yeah, that's it. If someone's trying to help you learn wisdom and you brush it off, what you're saying is, in future, I want less people to help me develop wisdom. And at the time, we're not consciously thinking that, but we're cutting off all the seeds of those people coming back. So, and we usually only notice it later when we feel lonely, get the result, and then we want to change the course, but we have to deal with that new course.
I hadn't actually thought of that. Yeah, you're making Dharma appear less in your life if you don't appreciate it in whatever way it appears. If you don't appreciate it, you don't want it anymore. You're not going to get it. That's so cool.
Can we go back to your earlier point? I think you said whatever makes you understand life in every angle or complete angles. Is that what you said to begin with? That was a cool sentence.
Yeah, something that helps you to be more aware of the system of life from more angles, I guess. Yeah, that could be it. We'd have to
Can
look
you,
back on it.
could you, for someone that's never heard that sentence, and then, okay, what does every angle mean? Does that mean, all of them in the book or whatever? How can they apply that? It's quite a powerful sentence, but how can they apply that to
That's
understand
an
Dharma?
epic question. Yeah, far out. Okay, so I guess I think one way to explain it would be what limits our perspective is when it becomes narrow, when we get stuck on a perspective. I guess for me, it was, I think, an obvious example would be when I first started like teaching people personal training, when I started trying to be personal trainer. It was always a bit scary going up and selling to people, like being, hey, you should buy my thing and give me money for what I do. And that perspective was really hard for me. I didn't like sales from that angle. But when I came to it from the angle of like, look, I've got my own style. This is what I do. If they don't know it's there, they can't take it up. And maybe they want it. So I took it from that perspective. It became much easier. I could walk up and go, hey, just letting you know, like I'm a PT. This is what I do. I teach this kind of Tai Chi movement or whatever. And that was just letting people know I was there. Didn't feel as salesy. Same exact process and action and intention, really. But the execution became a different perspective. So was
Oh,
easier.
that's cool. And it changed your feeling, which would have changed the response because people would have been, oh, hey, thanks very much. I'm busy or whatever, but they're not rejecting anything. They're just, thanks very much. And that's cool. And there's
People
no
hate being
pressure on them
sold.
really.
Yeah, they hate being sold to, but just something being offered is very different.
That actually reminds me, I got some advice on writing a couple of years ago, which was, so I met this guy at the conference and he's like a pro trader, runs a hedge fund. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to like get better. And he was, oh, you should start writing. No one's very good when they start. You're not writing an expert. Just imagine someone who's like 6 months earlier than you or a year before you. What's the kind of stuff you'd like to know about what the next 6 to 12 months looks like? Oh, that's really easy because I can talk about all that. You change that vibe and then the creativity appears. When it was about writing, I have to be the best ever and I have to always have the solution. It's in front of the computer, nothing comes out.
That's it. And so that small angle change in perspective, it changes the experience. It lets creative juices flow. Judgment disappears. Negative is reduced and positive appears. And I think seeing a situation from more than one angle helps. Seeing a situation from many angles is awesome. And if you're in a conflict and you can feel all the different angles, man, it's not a conflict anymore. It's just a little puzzle. You got to just figure out how to make all the pieces work together. Different feeling altogether.
I miss that about running workshops. At first, you're like nervous because, oh my gosh, is this thing going to fail? And then you do a couple, okay, it's not going to blow up in my face. We'll work through it. And then you never know what characters are going to be in the room. And then each of them kind of connect to each other. You might have the center of attention or the guy that whinges or the girl there's a small mistake on page 3, whatever the characters are, and you got to find a way to kind of match everyone. I really enjoyed that.
I think, and I think that's the key, right? If you find socializing difficult, you're going to hate workshops because it's socializing plus managing people plus managing situations.
You can't just walk away and be like, oh, look at the time.
Yeah. And having ability to perceive many angles and the tools to handle all the different situations, that's when life becomes more fun. It's less stressful. And that's what Dharma teaches. It's many little techniques to handle all the situations that life might throw at you. You've got a system to observe the outside, cause and effect, your inside, cause and effect, life force energy system, and the whole system is Dharma. So we have a technique, a system, and a guide and a map and all of that, and that's what Dharma is. And you got to practice it. You can't just have it in your mind and think about it and remember, oh, Buddha said this one day, and that's going to change your situation. No, you got to have that idea. What does it teach? In this situation, observe this and do that and behave like this or speak like that. Practice this intention. There's so many layers to it. You gotta be live and breathe it. It's a lifestyle, man. You can't just
Yeah.
remember it.
And it's not to say that technique's not important because you still need the technique, but that technique also needs to have that fluidity of this is one way to run. Let's say use the workshop example. Here's what we're going to do one after the other. Okay, well, people arrive late, equipment doesn't work, something's not landing and no one likes it. Okay, well, we need to go to the next one. You still have to have the technique, but you've got to just be able to like reorganize it on the fly. And so I like what you said. It's the Dummy's Guide to Running a Workshop, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3's not working. You just can't just hammer through like, no, we're going to stick to this. And like, yes, that approach just won't work.
Fluidity, man. Life is about change, and it doesn't repeat that much. It kind of repeats, but many layers. It's nuance change, and if you're trying to keep the same thing happening over and over, life will find a way to make sure you are very uncomfortable.
I found a post just then. There was like definitions of Dharma, but there's 8 of them. Maybe we'll put the link. Maybe we'll put the link if people want to read it afterwards. They can.
Yeah, that's good. But the practical wisdom part is what separates what we are connecting to versus what, I guess, the difference between developing true wisdom and developing a bigger ego is practical wisdom. Are you practicing it and are you applying it? How and for what intention and all that. But I always love the tennis player analogy. You can read every book on tennis, but if you don't pick up a racket and go actually start playing, you're not going to be good at tennis. You're not going to have any ability. And you can believe you're the best tennis player ever and not go stand on the court and be wrong when you are finally challenged and there's consequence in not being any good at it. You'll finally realize that your belief wasn't actual ability. And when you've played a million games and you can watch how people walk and how they hold the racket, and you're like, I can see how easy they're going to be to beat because I can see how they're not aware of all the details of the game. That's awareness. And that's what we train and develop, is the ability to be aware of our own cause effect and how to not create negative karma, or at least try our best not to, and keep observing Dharma to get a better and better understanding of the bigger picture so we don't naturally shrink back into our ego. But
one of those angles I think that comes up a lot in class, or particularly if you pick up a sutra or you read a Buddhist philosophy, I think is the non-human angle. Well, that's the understanding from a human perspective. And when you read that, you kind of like, what other perspective is there? And they often list all these other life forms, all these other gods, demons, devils, ghosts, all these other things. It gives you that feeling of there are many ways. Regular life, we just assume psychology, motivation, that's the subject, but it's like actually it's the human subject. So I think one of those angles which is quite hard. If I'm this kind of life form and I understand life, there's actually many other ways to do it, but that jump's pretty difficult, I think.
that's crazy. Yeah. I didn't even, when I heard that, I just figured it was for lower life forms on Earth, maybe a chimpanzee, maybe sign language, Dharma to it, but I never considered, it took, not that I never did, but it took me a while to consider that there are beings that have logic power other than humans, and they can learn as well. And then when I read the Four Noble Truths, how there's the human level and then there's high level monk, Bodhisattva, and Buddha,
Yes.
that blew me out of the water. I was like, what? The same idea is taught from different perspectives for different levels of awakened being. So humans are just this grassroots, we're barely sprouting the spiritual lotus seed kind of plant compared to where that wisdom takes you. That was so humbling.
I've had some interesting conversations about that because it's humbling to me. And I was like, oh wow, I never thought about that. When I shared it with someone else, and they're like, oh, so aliens exist then? We jumped over that hurdle quickly, but also it wasn't really a hurdle. Like they don't mention that they just assume that, whereas we have like a natural block there. So I thought that was kind of funny that.
Well, alien's a strange word. It's only humans that would call it an alien. To a being that can travel the universe without limitations of planet, atmosphere, and oxygen and all that, they wouldn't think of them as aliens. They would just think of them as other creatures in the universe. But we
They
call
live
them
over there,
yeah.
and we live
What
over
is
here.
what is the definition of an alien actually?
I don't know. I just remember Sifu saying we're aliens for aliens. So it's like the word doesn't mean anything really.
Yeah, well, I remember hearing that nature, if you define nature as being anything not man-made, that's how I would have defined it. And then you're like, but humans are part of nature, so anything humans make is actually part of nature. In fact, if aliens came to Earth, they'd be like, oh, look at the humans with their building nature. They build these buildings and they blow each other up. That's in their nature. And I was like, fully, boing.
That's quite like the other part I like about that angle for Dharma is that if you can break out of the just human perspective, even if you have like humans and animals, just expanding the life form, I think helps understanding as well. So if someone says, oh, the purpose of life is to help people, take a sound bite. I think that was an Einstein one. Einstein's, at the end of my life, I've realized the meaning of life is to help others. Okay, great. That's a sound bite. But can you unpack that? Can you get more detail? It's not a complete sequence, just something that sounds really nice. And so when Buddhism talks about Dharma, here's a sentence and here's a map and here's all the complete angles around it. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, and what humbles me about Dharma is every sentence is so perfect. What was that sentence again that you just said, that you should help people?
Yeah, so Einstein one was the purpose of life is to help others.
Okay, so that sounds great, but when you peck it apart, help others do what? Some people want to do gnarly evil stuff. You're going to help them too? Help them do their evil thing? Dharma has to be complete and perfect and develop an ability to kind of awaken, to be free from what creates suffering, to put it simply. And if doing something bad is going to create suffering, or even having the wrong intention is going to create suffering, Dharma has to remain in that it can't be flawed at all. There can't be any mistakes. If I just used that one as an example, you're going to
And
help
very
people.
quickly, what is that? What is, so, I mean, we just took a random soundbite from Einstein and then very quickly you can unpack it. But I think that was kind of cool. How come you can break that apart from being a Dharma so quickly that could you kind of share that process? Is it about, it's not complete? Is it about how you approach that idea?
Yeah, it's, I think the law of something to be, there's a checklist for what it needs to be true and logical. And one thing is it doesn't change. So if you say you have to help people, you think about all the times in human history, which people are you helping that are doing good? Because there were some gnarly people throughout history. If you help them, you're not doing good. So in time, that's not a perfect statement. In situation, it's not a perfect statement. So we've already got two from, I can't remember how many there are.
Do you mean it has to be true in all time, in all space, from every angle, every situation? Is that the one? 1, 2, 3, 4?
For every life form, every situation. Time, space, life form, and situation.
Situation.
Yeah. So in time, you don't want to support every people all the time. Yeah. So like, that's not, I'm not trying to peck apart and say it's a bad idea. In theory, it's a great idea. You should support and help people. But where do we get our compass or goal from, I guess? And who do we help and why? And I guess it has to be built on a perfect idea, a perfect foundation of logic and wisdom and I think the first question you have to unpack is, what is life? And that's what Dharma spends many, many, many angles explaining, is what is life. Because if
That's
you don't
cool.
understand what something is, you can't then observe how it is, like the function of it, what is it, and how does it operate? And then you can learn what goal.
Okay, so because I thought it was cool, I just introduced a random sentence from Einstein, who's considered a very smart human, but in seconds you could pull it apart, and that's the kind of Dharma ability we want to share with people. And then we said, okay, Dharma has to be true in all time, in all space, for every life form, from every angle. And then you said, but you can't talk about what's the meaning of life without defining the word life force. So I think that was really cool. So it's part of learning Dharma is what does that mean? Can you define it before you just brush past it and go, well, that's a bit difficult, but just help other people and okay, we're done.
I had one guy, he trained Wing Chun for many years, and he came and learned our style and was completely humbled by it. It was, what? And we were like, yeah, this is the true source of yin yang, recycle, recharge Tai Chi. And Wing Chun is a simplified Tai Chi. So he was learning for ages, and he was humbled by the movement, but he kept wanting to speak philosophy, and his ideas on philosophy were, yeah, just a lot of talking. He would talk and talk and talk, and I said, remember how you were humbled by our system of movement and martial art compared to yours? To me, your philosophy is even worse than your martial art compared to our understanding of philosophy, because you keep talking about what is the good life, what is the good life. For who? For what? What is life? What are you trying to get from the good life? The good life in terms of what? You get a lot of money, or the good life in terms of you help a lot of poor people? How do you measure good? And he didn't want to define life. He just wanted to move on to what is the good life. He just kept trying to go to the good life. And I was like, don't add a describing word to the word life yet. Let's unpack what is life first. Couldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Refused. And that, I think, is where a blockage is. If you're not willing to admit you don't understand something and willing to take on higher understanding of it, whether it comes from someone younger than you, older than you, a book, a song, a mantra, a candle, it appears in a dream. I don't care where it comes from. If it's true and it's higher than yours, you got to take it. You got to be, wisdom follows wisdom, Like, sorry, that was a real trigger for me.
No, that's cool. So I think I'm trying to unpack a word that means a lot to us and an ability that you look back, I didn't have it, but now I've developed some of it. At what point did it appear? And so I think it's cool because you go, okay, we got to a definition why it's important. And also, if you're not willing to go back to that definition or check, can I actually define it? I just want to go, oh, well, this is the good part. Because the good and bad part's easy. It's just a feeling. I just do that every second. But to understand life, I think that's what a lot of different Dharma show. Here's a different way to explain life. A still perfect, complete way, but You know, it's a different way to look at that perfect map.
Exactly. Yeah. There's many ways to observe and create a perfect explanation or help. Like every life learns from a different intention with different motivations. So it's called convenient wisdom because it's convenient for whoever's heart is drawn to it. But what's convenient to us might not be convenient to others, you know? So yeah, the convenient wisdom part is what makes it relatable. And that's the magic, is being able to kind of, I guess, unpack something, to see it from many angles, to observe it from many angles, to be aware of it on behalf of many different egos or perspectives. That kind of broadens your understanding of any situation. So there was something you said before that triggered a really cool idea, but it's gone now.
Thank you. I can't tell you what the idea is, but do you want me to go back? Well, we talked about convenient wisdom, but I feel like we need to give some dharmas or something for people for next week. Because what's the definition of life? Because I can put many posts to the blog about what is.
I remember.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
So what I did with Albert Einstein's sentence there is one way to do it. And you said something to me a long time ago that was really cool. It's easy to complain. It's harder to make it better and provide solutions.
Yeah.
So that's the two types of observing we're doing. Any situation, we're trying to observe how the situation can be better, but we're not just going to complain. We're going to bring the solution. So what Albert Einstein said was, life is meant for helping people, right?
Yeah.
You could make that a complete sentence by giving a direction or a function for the help. So life is meant for helping people be more aware or be free from suffering or whatever. You could add a goal to it that would make it sweet.
Is to help others learn life.
Help others to be aware of life or to be aware of Dharma. You could add something there that would make it a perfect sentence. But he just implied the goal, and that's where it goes wrong. When you imply and assume and you don't have the detail, that's where people can be like, I'm helping people. I'm helping my child get into whatever thing that I want them to get into because I think it's good. And they, overbearing parent, bang, you've got a kid that's stuck in something they hate. They thought they were helping him, and that's because it's Albert Einstein's fault, bro.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Dharma's already complete, and you can't add and subtract. But you can take most human one-liners, most kind of bumper sticker wisdom, I would call, and you can just add a bit, and that's better. Yeah. And like you said, we assume that bit, but until it was articulated, it was, yeah.
Well, it's the power to observe really deeply to see if something's BS or not. If something's useless nonsense, you don't want to waste your time on it. And so many bumper sticker human ideas are exactly that. There's one I remember hearing, love is like water. It flows to wherever is empty. In theory, what they're saying is if you're empty, love will flow to you. And if you went to a party and everyone was just sitting back waiting for the love to come to them, that would be the lamest party ever. The best part is interacting, and you go out and you show love. Love is something you be, you give, you share. And I understand you could say, oh, but if you're full of all these bad experiences from your past, you're not going to have love. It's okay. Now we got detail. You can't have a full heart of negative experiences and have love appear. You're sharing your negative. It's just a cycle. Comes back.
That party got me so good. Everyone's, I'm just all easy and like, hey, should we put music on? Whatever, man.
I don't know if you ever went through that phase, but when I was first going to like social events, I didn't know how to behave. And so I was just like, I'm just going to be, quiet, mysterious, and someone will, yeah. And no one likes that guy standing in the corner looking all sad and like serious. Something big's going on in his life. It's like, no one cares for that, man.
Everyone's trying to like rock a pose. But it kind of reminded me of like this school dance we did have, and it was super awkward because it's boys and girls, and no one's enjoying that bit. It's much better later, half an hour later, where someone's hi or, oh, you're so-and-so. And then it's all mixed and it goes back to sharing and whatever. But at that standoff point, it's too weird. No one wants that party.
But that's how amazing life is, Tim. Like when you're that age, that is a test. Socializing with the opposite school gender, like that is, whoa, like I've got to go say hi to this person. Now, you imagine putting those same people through that same test. It'd just be, they'd have a great time. It would be no stress at all. They probably wouldn't turn up. It'd be boring. They'd be like, you know what? I got better things to do. But life is testing us from many angles all the time. And it keeps changing the test as you get better at stuff. And Dharma is that powerful that it can always fit in and apply, and you can apply it and you can observe it, practice it, upgrade your skill set. Because in that, I remember going to those situations and you're like, oh man, I've got to go and talk to someone. I've got to go and engage someone. And the only thing you're doing is you're scared that you're either going to look like an idiot. So you're holding on to your reputation and your coolness, or you're scared you're going to get rejected, which is that's a fair thing to be afraid of. But so what? They reject you. Someone else will pick it up.
Yeah. That experience of rejection is so short, and then it's kind of finished. And then later you realize that I'm judging me because I'm nervous, I'm going to get rejected. But actually everyone else is doing the same thing. They're just totally obsessed with their own nervous. And then when you realize that, you just, hey man, how's it going? Oh, yeah, good. And someone needs to start it. And you're like, oh, well, the quicker someone starts this, the less awkward it's going to be of like.
But to put it in perspective, so I am a very open, friendly, loving person, but growing up, I got picked on a lot. So I thought that wasn't cool. That's not how you be. And so I was fenced into this. I was afraid to be that person. And then I remember realizing kindness is something you offer. It's something you share. It's not easy to be kind. It's not easy to be warm and loving. That's why you have to be a bit brave to do it, because yeah, you might get laughed at, you might get rejected, but I'd rather be my true self and actually bravely be loving and kind, because the people that receive it and appreciate it are so appreciative. They need it. They're like battling, and you come and bring warmth and love, and they're like, thank you so much. That's how I fell into massaging and healing people, because when people are in pain, I'm like, oh man, that sucks. I want to help. Like, I just naturally became that person. But if you had told me when I was in that phase of scared to be myself that I was one day going to be flying overseas and massaging people and bringing them, I don't know. I just wouldn't have seen that. So my true self couldn't appear while I was blocked in by my own ego fear, and the outside had made me afraid to be that true self. So Dharma frees you from that negative pollution and allows you to actually strengthen your true will, your life force, that part of yourself that is free from all that outside noise.
Yeah, it opens. The bit that should come out comes out, and the bit that needs to go away goes away. You remind me about the cool kids at school. So I wasn't in the cool group. There was a group of guys who were like, collars up, like cool kids. And at lunch, they would sit around and be cool. And like, I wanted to be cool, but like, that was their little thing. And so we would end up like kicking a soccer ball and playing sport and other stuff. But over the time, it was super boring for them. They would slowly want to come over and play soccer. I remember one of these guys, I won't say his name, but I'd never really spoken to him because he was so cool and would always shut everything down. And he's kind of like hovering around three people kicking a ball. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, hey man, do you want to play? And he's like, what? And I'm like, okay. And they kick the ball back. And then I literally like passed the ball to him, and he kind of like stared at it. And like, it was a moment of, do I be cool or do I kick the ball? Which is why I want to kick the ball. And so then he like passed the ball back. But it was like the most awkward pass back, like, oh no, I've got to give up my coolness to kick this ball. But it's like, he didn't care about that. He was like, there's only so much fun you can do having this for 45 minutes at lunch. So it was so funny because I was like, oh, actually, he just wants to kick a ball. So I was like, oh, straight.
Well, he wants to kick the ball, but he wants to look like he's not trying to kick the ball.
And then afterwards I tried to talk to him, he's like, whatever. And so I was like, okay.
I used to think, that sort of stuff used to happen to me, and I used to take it like, oh, I'm not cool. But I've lately learned to realize they're trapped by something. That must be torture and my perspective shift, I feel bad for them. So I'll go be a little bit of a goose so that they can lighten up. I'll just be like, hey man, have you done this? And I trip over all the time or whatever. I'll just open up about something that make them feel more at ease, because I want them to not feel that trapped.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool, man. Be yourself. That's what's really cool.
Yeah, but it's like that, we say Dharma's like other angles, but that angle of like, oh, he's so cool, I'm not so cool, I wish I was cool, blah, 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 all that. But then seeing him unable to kick the ball that's right next to him, it was like the biggest decision of his life. And you're like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's a ball within 55 meters, I'm like, can I run and get it? But
I'm running to it. Yeah, fully.
Yeah,
especially as a kid.
I walk past a kid with a ball, and Lanya's like, you desperately want to go over there and kick it. I'm like, well, do you reckon he'll kick it to me? Or should I go over there and kick it? Yeah. So it doesn't have to be so difficult, the other angles, but we know when we feel it and we're like, oh, okay, yeah. You said that person's actually trapped in that. They don't want to be trapped.
That contradiction is torture when you're stuck in something like that. And I mean, that's such a weak situation to have it. Like, do I want to kick the ball or not? And then then you observe deeply into what kind of character feels that. Like, what heart must he be in? He must think everyone's watching him, and the pressure to keep being this type of person is what keeps him this person. So he can't break this role. And then, oh, deep inside, I want to break free and kick a soccer ball and be free. But what if I lose this thing and everyone's probably watching? And like all those layers of illusion.
So
Yeah,
busy,
like how
isn't
can you
it?
ever be at peace when you're like dealing with all that? Like, and so Dharma is so powerful because it can always cut through that noise, no matter what life form, no matter what situation, no matter what space. What's the last one? No matter what time,
Time.
when, always has that power to relate, cut through, and free a consciousness from that limitation if they can let go and connect to it and are capable of matching that Dharma. It's so powerful.
And I think you said earlier, like it just keeps changing and changing and changing until we manage to pick up all those other angles. And then that's the only way we can really develop that ability is have to go through all that. And then it's like, they're like, ah, okay, now I feel the freedom. Without,
Yeah.
if there was only one test in your past, then that ability can disappear. So
Well, what would be interesting for you would be to see that person now and see how far that restricted them. Because kicking a soccer ball is healthy and playing with your friends is fun. But if you're trapped in this thing, can't do things that are not stoic and like you're not going to live. What happens to your life then? So I'd
I
be
don't know.
interested to see if he broke through that because that's a powerful test.
Well,
That's a lot of
I got invited to like a fashion week party. So I was friends with one of his friends, and Boosh, a good friend of mine, he was like, "Oh, you should go to this fashion party." And so saw him there, and I thought, yeah, that's the kind of cool kid fashion thing. And I was like, oh man, this is not my vibe. But I was already 25 or so, so it was kind of like that wasn't a really big deal to me. But I saw a whole group of people like that because I thought, oh, sweet, I'm at a fashion party with models. This is awesome. But it was actually super awkward because they, like you described, people just don't want to interact. It's like, yeah, the girls are hot, but actually it was such an awkward party because no one wanted to interact, but they wanted to. It was like, yeah.
Yeah, and that stiffness, that stuffy stiff, no one feels free to do anything. That can be really stale and boring. Like, that's why people need alcohol though, I guess, because that lets them just break free, and drugs, they can just go nuts. So people often, I speak to a lot of people that have like substance issues and they like really worry about it, but they will until they address that underlying cause of like they're trapped in this character that's limited by fear and worry from the outside, they're always going to need substances to not be trapped in that kind of thing. So like they're going to try and stop the substances, but then be trapped, and then they're going to feel depressed from their trap. So the drugs are a solution to that. Yeah, it's like
And they have the guilt because they take the drugs, and I should be over, and
health
you're
is
just
so
more
complicated.
stuck and more stuck and more stuck, and you're like, no freedom then, freedom not
No
there.
freedom there, and because the solution's never outside. The solution is always, that's what Dharma teaches, is to observe how you're holding your posture and your intention with yourself and the world around you. That's what we're learning to purify, like, to stop having whatever intention makes me think that throwing something at my friend and making everyone laugh at them falling over is a good idea. Like, I remember doing that to my mate. I booted a footy, like I drop kicked a ball. He's running along the field and lined him up. My mate was, you're not going to hit him. And I just drop kicked it, bro. Gonk, side of the head, cleaned him up. Like, I'm a forward. I shouldn't be able to do that. In whatever reason, I was like, well, I just lined it up. I was just like, my intention was so sure how to kick it. It just clicked and it hit him. I was like, damn it, why can't I do that in an actual game to do something good? No pressure. No one expected me to hit him, and I did. I nailed him. Sconed him right in the ear. He came up to me going, bro, my ear's ringing still. I felt terrible. But in that moment, I thought that was cool, and now I feel bad about it. And then he doesn't trust me, unlike me at all.
You kick the ball in his face for no reason, it's like,
But that's what we're trying to clean out, is those automatic weeds of character that are not they don't bring good result, and they don't look good, and they don't feel good, and they take up space for something better to appear.
Nice. Yeah, we cleaning out the weeds in the garden for something else to grow. We
Yeah.
why don't we wrap it up there? So I took some notes because we started with Dharma teaches eternal wisdom. I can share the notes because
Ooh.
I'm the head of
You're a screener.
technology, IT, communications, support network. So we've
Dharma
got
teaches wisdom and is a practical guide for life.
and then we've got some links for people they can.
Easy to complain, hard to create solutions. Yes.
Yeah, this one's a common one. Like, tell me how to make it better. No, I can just
Yeah.
tell you I didn't like that.
Yeah. No, you're terrible. I don't like you.
Very Karen. We talked about Einstein, saying, okay, the purpose of life is to help others. Sounds good, but why is that different to Dharma? Different to Dharma because we can.
It's got no direction. It's not complete and it's got no direction.
And there's no direction. Yeah, that's
It could
important.
easily be misinterpreted and taken the wrong way. Man,
So
your
then
note-taking ability is high level, bro. Time, space, every life form, every situation.
so the exercise for people. What is life? Can you do a definition?
Yeah, see if you can, and we'll define it next week.
We got many. We're lucky we've got many ways we can talk about it. You mentioned convenient wisdom.
Yeah, so for humans, it has to be relative to human awareness and capability, or we won't bother reading it and connecting to it.
I think I like Sifu's quote that popular philosophy is the easy one, not necessarily the correct one.
Yeah, well, then you can do another subnote from that and say, and more convenient is to be able to make it relatable or match someone's in like motivation for learning or address their actual suffering directly.
Because
It's like it's very broad to say, oh, Dharma helps release suffering. It's like learning to be able to go, what kind of suffering would you be able to target it? And worry is one. Like, yeah, individual situations. That's good. Yeah.
that's part of what we're trying to build here is here's a philosophy or here's a word, here's how you can apply it in your life, and then like where's the direction to develop it. Oh, great, you can understand one sentence. Can I explain it to that person? Can I become that wisdom? Like you're talking about healing. Can I actually use it to help someone?
Yeah.
And then I think this one was about the Einstein. I was saying if you take that Einstein quote, you can make
Well,
it.
almost anything you learn, you should do this with. You should observe it to see where it's not complete, where it's incorrect. Only when you can't break it, then you can start trusting it.
What was that last one? Observe to make more complete, or just observe
Or
to?
can you break the logic of it?
Yeah, we don't practice this a lot. It's easy
I
just
do.
to go, oh yeah.
I've started to a lot more because yeah, I mean, like, even every teacher you get, they're going to have their own limitations to their view on things. So you've got to be sharp to not let their kind of blindnesses become yours as well as taking on what they're teaching that's wise. And you've got to observe it to make sure it's not taught incorrectly or whatever, you know.
Mm.
Because you only have yourself to blame when you do fall for a trick or you do not see the incomplete or contradictory nature of something, and then you're the only one that's going to suffer the consequences. Unless you're using it on other people, then they're going to suffer it too.
You just share it across.
Yeah, just spreading the negative.
Awesome. Should we wrap it up there?
Mate, that was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. I like this. I like the style of taking a sentence and it growing out of that. It kind of brings that theme all the way through. I think we did well on that. We covered,
Yeah,
we
that was
covered
good.
the guides.
And one other part of appreciating Dharma is to regularly say thanks to the people that brought it into your life. I know it might sound like I'm leading to people appreciating me and Tim, but no, this is about appreciating the people that made it available to us and the consciousness that originally observed it, explained it, and the ones that helped record it, write it down, and keep it accessible so that we can be lucky enough to connect to it. How many thousand years later, bro? Like, far out, 2,500, 2,500 years ago or something. I think it was explained.
Yeah.
Yeah, one practical way to kind of one exercise to practice, and it's a way of practicing correct speech, correct action is a bowing technique, and you can do it however you want. You can be lying down, you can be sitting, eyes open, eyes closed. It's all about intention, and the way we train it is when you can follow the actions, you can open your hands a big circle, bring them down in front, and make the Om sound, and just say thank you to all the eternal perfect consciousness,
Thank
like
you to
Buddha
all
and
the eternal
Bodhisattva,
consciousness, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
that helped us observe, connect to, and develop wisdom.
Helps us to observe, connect to, and develop wisdom.
And thank you for your amazing wisdom and compassion.
Thank you for your amazing wisdom and compassion.
And just lightly put your head to your hands, and then take your center again. One more Om. And that is moving, speaking, a wisdom meditation. And you're actually becoming Dharma while saying thanks for the Dharma and appreciating the Dharma.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's cool. Thanks, bro. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was cool. All right, and we'll see everyone next week.
See you next week. Another drop of
See you
Dharma.
next week. All right, catch you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.